Lamar, how are you? I'm Lamar Smith here. We're sitting on a beautiful day in Boston, Massachusetts. And I explained to Lamar that we're launching a new website called Social Justice Creations. And in that we have a section that's called Taking It to the Streets, where we're kind of encouraging mental health professionals, teachers, parents to get out and to engage in discussion about different issues that are happening. Especially right now with this epidemic of violence going across the country, with cop killings and cops now being attacked, kind of back and forth. Now we're going at it. So we are delighted to have you. Your mom is one of the organizers of the website, and thought it would be interesting to kind of interview you and kind of like just talk about things that are happening that would be of interest to anyone in general in society. Particularly white people in mental health or in education. Yep. So, I mean, maybe we could just open it up with a general kind of discussion. What do you see happening across the country?
I see it's an epidemic. It's you know what it is? It's social media that's not, I wouldn't say hyping, because it's a gift and a curse for social media. Social media allows you to be in Baltimore and be in Boston at the same time. Social media allows you to be in Chicago and be in Boston at the same time. And a lot of the issues with social media is, like I said, it's a gift and a curse, but it's also an awakening, so to speak. Mm-hmm. What it does is it puts a certain viewpoint out to the public. Mm-hmm. And what it does is, like right now, if you was to go on, say, Facebook, mm-hmm. you would see over 100 videos of cops mm-hmm. being brutal to minorities. Yes. Mm-hmm. There's not too many, and that's the culture. Mm-hmm. And I believe that needs to be uprooted. It needs to be uprooted, and it needs to be a level of education when it's in again. See what I'm saying? So it's
what specifically needs to be uprooted from the media?
I think the violence in a whole. Because the thing about it is, police are not the police department on the whole is not bad. Right. We need police. I have children. My oldest son is 12. I don't want my son in a policeless nation.
They need to be safe.
They need to be safe.
Sure.
They need to feel like they're safe. They need officers that interact with them. Like if we're in the park, watching the park, cops should be walking through. They should be riding bikes. They should know the kids in the neighborhood. They should have a rapport with the kids in there. I'm not talking about snitching or ratting or informants. I'm talking about just a rapport with the kids.
Know what's going on.
Know what's going on. Mm-hmm. You know, and that helps. That's a start. Just to know your neighborhood. If you're assigned to a certain neighborhood, you should know the neighborhood.
That's right.
You should know the neighborhood. And that's where the divide comes. That's where these young kids with the attitude, the mentality of when they see the cops, it's a certain mentality that they take.
Negative?
A negative mentality that they take.
But is it that based upon history and treatment that they've received? You know?
Yes, but it's a learning process. It's a learning process. You have individuals that are from certain areas in the city that were having problems in the 80s, even in the early 90s, and it trickled on to now it is 2015. And a lot of these young guys don't even know what their original problem is. They just know that they just don't like the other side. And that's what it's starting to be with the police. And now with the video, with the social media, going back to the social media, all you see is this violence against them, against us, from the police.
And isn't that a first-time situation, you think, in the history of this country? Where these people have the video cameras that are actually showing what we always knew happened?
Exactly, and that's the social media. Whereas these kids are so, that www.com, like I said, is that all of that's a gift and a curse. For my 12-year-old to have the world in his hands, and I can't govern it. You know, and what I mean by I can't govern it, you can be the best parent, the most caring, loving parent, but it's still not going to stop your kid from going to school and somebody showing them a cell phone and they can run through the net. So
it's a whole different world.
It's a whole different world. It's a whole, and it's a digital world. It's a media it's a media crazy world.
So when the media includes people who are videotaping these acts of brutality, and they see people calling out, "I can't breathe," and the cops are, what impact does that have? Because you know we're doing some of this from a mental health professional perspective, right? What kind of either mentally or spiritually impact do you think, as one person, it has on the African American community in particular?
It's a breaking point.
It's at a breaking point.
It's getting to be at a breaking point. Whereas back in the 70s, there was a lot of prayer going on. You know, it was a lot of black uprising there, and it seems like that's hidden. There's no, to me, there's no revolutionists anymore. There's no people that do things for the next generation. It's just about now. And that's what social media is. Social media is about what's going on now. And there's no sacrifice for the next generation. Like, we march, but I think it was so we could march. There was no point to the march. You see what I'm saying? Like, okay, we're gonna march because of this. We're gonna march because we want this done. We're
That's
just
right.
marching.
With an agenda.
You have to have an agenda. With everything, there has to be an agenda, because then there's no. It's like it's an open with no end. There has to be an end. There has to be a reason for it. Like today is Mother's Day. There was a march this morning, and it was mothers basically. I wouldn't say protesting for their sons. You know, the safety of their children. And it was a lot of mothers that lost their children to the streets that marched. That's hard to see, because a lot of the mothers see each other, they start crying because they've known their kids. They've known the children that grew up. They knew them.
Yeah, sure.
So it's hard.
Like their children.
It's not exactly. And then you turn. There's one mother. I don't want to say her. I don't know her name, and it's unfortunate that I don't, because it's just so many. When it happens, it's just like, okay, it's overwhelming. And this is a small city. It doesn't happen as much as a place like Chicago. It doesn't happen. And it's not, the brutality with the police is more mental down this way, in my belief. There's a lot of violence that happens.
Give an example of mental violence that
well,
happens.
what happens is you'll get pulled over, and maybe because of your record, or maybe because you're young, you can physically get yanked out your car, and that's illegal.
It's illegal.
For a traffic violation, you get pulled over for a red light, or you get pulled over for a stop sign, and now you find yourself outside of your car, getting
hands up
on the hood, getting your car getting strip searched, you getting patted down, and it's just, and it takes. That's 45 minutes out of your day just being harassed, and that could happen on every corner. That could be 3 times a day for you.
Have you been stopped?
Yes, many times.
Many times.
Many times.
And you have to go through this ritual when you.
It's systematic. You almost know what they're gonna do.
And I know the answer to this, but I'll check it out with you. More people of color are stopped by police than white people.
Definitely.
What do you make of that? What does the black community make of that? What kind of reality is that? What do they call it?
That's just what it is. It's reality. And it's unfortunate. It's injustice. And it's, like I said, it's a teaching that needs to be uprooted. Like the children, these children should not grow up learning that that's what the police do. And that's what I mean about a deep rooting and a teaching that needs to be uprooted. When my son is in my car with me and he sees the police sirens, or he hears the police sirens and he sees the lights, he shouldn't automatically think something's wrong.
But that's conditioning.
But that's condition. It's a conditioning, and that's what needs to be broken. That's what needs to be broken. But it needs to be a teaching. Like in Atlanta, I just read a survey in Atlanta that the AIDS epidemic. My age, I'm 35. There's kids that are between 30 and 35. There's individuals walking around there that have full-blown AIDS and didn't know it. That means they went through the whole process of the HIV, the pneumonia, whatever you get that leads up to HIV, what leads up to AIDS. You just don't automatically have AIDS. They have full-blown AIDS and didn't know it. And they're 35. That's a lack of teaching.
I was going to say, you get back to the teaching and the learning and the education.
It has to be. It has to be. It has to be. But since when did it not be since when did it stop being cool going to school? You know what I mean? Being out on the corners and doing nothing, that's not cool. And that's the teaching that needs to be uprooted.
So would you say that the problem is with people of color who are not motivated to learn and graduate from school?
Well, the motivation comes from the lack of the school systems. Like the Burke, Jeremiah E. Burke. When I was in high school, 97, I remember the Jeremiah E. Burke had no funding. They didn't even have paper, let alone books.
We got the Windstar business here. Now, is this your school that you went to?
No, I didn't go to the Jeremiah. I lived around the corner from the Burke. See, a lot of the inner city youth, they try to. There's a program called MECO. What it does is it takes inner city kids and they bring them out to suburban schools and let them have a better education. And that program's been under scrutiny for years. Since I was in high school, you hear about the program, and I think that's a containment issue. If you're hearing that the program's always going to be dismantled, they act a certain way.
Because there's no loyalty.
Exactly. There's no push to get more stuff. Like if you have a program and it's going well, the kids learn, you want to increase that. So what they do is and that's the mental thing. What they do is they tell you every year that this program is in jeopardy so you don't ask for anything else. You don't get but so many kids being bused out to these communities and be schooled.
So how can you have a long-term goal?
Exactly. And if you're feeling unstable, you never really get what you're there to obtain. So it's always a triangle. It's never a square. You're never fully rooted.
Right now in our society, what you said before, the numbers of people from minority groups in the next 15 years are going to outnumber white people in this country.
Yes.
Right. And that never happened before. And so I think that if, as a white person myself, I can see how other white people will be very nervous about this because it may mean they're taking away their privilege there.
This is America. There's no taking away from the privilege. That's the thing. That's the separation. And that's the teaching we all have. It's one. It's not that. It's not you and them. And this is America. It's supposed to be about equality. I have the same rights if I'm an American, if I'm a citizen. Now there's an issue with illegals, which I understand. But if I'm a citizen, you're a citizen. If I have a level of education, I'm going for a job, then we have equal. This should be equal playing field.
That's right.
It shouldn't be, oh, we're losing America.
Yeah.
We're losing. No, you're not.
Yeah.
If anything, you're gaining a different culture. You're learning about different. It should be a plus and not always a negative. And that's what it seems to be. It always seems to be a negative.
Now you're a 35-year-old man with a couple kids, right?
Yes.
And my question to you is, and it may change for everybody that I ask this question to. My question to you is two parts, right? What is your level of faith that things are going to get better in the United States as we increase the number of minority people as a majority? And what faith do you have as a member of the black community? And what feeling do you have about the white community moving to that level of oneness that you're talking about? But let's start with the black community. How optimistic are you that things like Baltimore, the organizing, the protests, they elected a black mayor, they elected a black prosecutor, the black prosecutor falls right in, 6 cops getting arrested, first time it happened, not even waiting for the grand jury.
Arresting jobs.
So that's right, and I just came from Baltimore, people were saying, once they did that, there was a chill factor that came in, because our hope,
satisfaction type.
That's right, it was like, hey, wait a minute, maybe there is hope here. So it went from violent to less violent, it was really calm, pretty good. But let me ask you, where is a 35-year-old black man with 2 kids, by feeling hopeful or not so hopeful as the black community operates in the future?
You want to always feel hopeful. And you have to have that type of spirit about you, especially when you have kids, because you don't want your kids, the kids see everything, and they develop your attitudes, they develop your modes, and they develop they're little you. So what you don't want to have is you don't want to have a negative aspect about yourself. So I think that it all comes down to education. It all comes down to education. And I want to stay hopeful. I want to stay hopeful. I guess we're just going to have to see where everything goes. Because what I don't want to see is, I don't want to see the powers that be putting up putting in place who they want to put in place.
Yep.
Like they might have just. I don't want to see that they put that black governor down there, that black senator down there, the new police chief, a black. Just to shut people up for
just
now.
to shut people up.
I don't want to gag. I don't want a gag factor.
Yeah.
I want actual change.
Yeah.
You want to see these people in play, but you don't want to see puppets in play.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Now, in your community, do you see churches? Do you see community agencies? Do you see anything that is some of the resources that can keep that hope? I mean, hope can only go too far. It's so far. Are there things happening in your community that, like this? Like being with the basketball courts, having this available. Do you see resources?
I do, but I see it limited. There are resources, but it's limited. And the thing about it is, it's not like down south where church is still a big factor in down south. It's not so much for these kids up this way.
That's a good point.
And it's so far, it's so close but so far, the difference. Because when I go down south and I tell them that I'm from Massachusetts, and they're like, Massachusetts, I say Boston, the Boston Celtics, Boston Red Sox. And the first question is, there's black people down there?
Yeah.
Yes, there are black people down here. And we're going through the same things that you all go up here. We're going through. And it's social injustice. You have to have a social responsibility, like we spoke about. And that goes to all aspects of everything that's around you.
Now I can feel your sense of hopefulness, especially with the kids. I think that's coming from you. Let me just ask you, with all that's happening here, you see surveys, black thinks one way, white thinks another way. How optimistic are you as a black man in particular of having, in your lifetime, see changes among white people that really get to the deep part of these problems and, really build a democracy and fairness and justice? What do you see happening out here in the white community?
I see it in the same, it's symbolic to technology. It's always gonna enhance. See, as the generations come up, as the generations grow up, the laws are going to change, your thinking's going to change, everything's going to change as generations grow.
And that's part of your optimism.
That's exactly. I was speaking to a friend of mine, and he said he went into his school. And his teacher, one of his son's teacher, had tattoos on him, and he thought that was inappropriate. And I said, maybe when you was a child it was inappropriate, but as the times change, stuff like that is becoming accepted. It's like the issue with quarries. In 5 years from now, the job market is going to have to change because they're going to have to accept people with quarries, because that's just the way everybody, you're going to have to make changes to it. Because if you don't, you're not going to have enough workers. If everybody's quarry is going to stop them from working, who's going to work?
But you have to have people in leadership positions that have the knowledge that you're talking about. So that the person here has the knowledge to say, let's have the cops come through here and just get to know the community.
Exactly. It's not about coming down here and harassing people. It's about coming down here. Like if I'm gonna tell you, if these guys right here on these bikes was to stop, put their bikes over on the corner, sit on these benches and just relax, playing basketball, laughing and joking, and two officers, plain clothes, walked over just to say, hey guys, what's going on? Shoot a couple of baskets, kick it for a little bit, and walk away just to get to know the people. They don't even ask nobody's name. These kids will get up and walk away
because
the cops are coming. Because it's just it's a separation.
Yes.
And it shouldn't be that separation. Because the first thing these guys are gonna think, not that they're gonna come over and arrest anybody, but they're gonna come over here and they're gonna, excuse my French, they're gonna bust balls.
Yeah, right. With just an attitude.
With just an attitude. And as soon as you see them, you automatically get an attitude. And that carries out through your day. Especially, and if that was the cops' intention, see what happens is they come over there, they harass these kids. Now these kids have an attitude for the rest of the day.
That's right.
And it
spread wherever they come in contact with. That's right.
So that's how you get a whole community that's always so frustrated.
Now, in our group where we work with mental health professionals, right, we do most of the work in offices. They call it the 50-minute hour, where you sit with someone for 50 minutes. And basically, a lot of the change is focused in on, let's say you're the client. We've got to help you change your coping strategies. We got to help you kind of develop a positive self-esteem, right, that kind of stuff. But the problem is, a lot of people see it as soon as you leave the office, you go back into the conditions that eroded that self-esteem to begin with. So if you had a magic wand, right, and you're looking at a white professional like me in mental health, and we want people to be, to be healthy, not only physically, but mentally and spiritually is what we're moving to. What would be some of the advice you'd give me or viewers of this video to keep in mind what they can do? I mean, you're talking about the cops literally coming out here, getting to know the community. What would you recommend?
If I had a magic wand, nature's gonna always persist. Like nature, you're gonna be that of a man, a woman first. That's not my mother, that's a woman first. So she's gonna be a woman by nature first. And I think what it boils down to is everybody having an equal playing field. If everybody has an equal playing field, then things will work out.
What do you think we could do to help level the playing field?
Education. That's the biggest thing. You just have to educate. You have to start to change. You have to start to change the mindset. And this generation might not be able to do that. But if we get to the babies, we start to change their mindset. It's gonna heal itself, like the planet. They say once all the humans are gone, it's gonna heal itself. That's what we need. The generations need to heal itself. And I mean, with everybody half in and half out, you're never gonna get anywhere like that. Like like I'm 35, I have the teachings of my mother and my father, and I'm teaching my kid, I'm showing my kids a certain way, but they're learning the new way of things, and there has to be a medium. There has to be a point where it says, okay, well listen, this needs a process, whatever that is. If it's whatever space you're in, that needs to be done. It needs to be, you need to be all in.
And not only families, you think schools can do this?
I think the schools, yes. See, that's another thing. Everything is separate now. The schools were never separate from your family. Like, I knew my teachers were almost family. When I was in elementary school, I went to Quincy E. Dickerman, and I still remember my teachers, Miss Ross, Miss Wayman, Dr. Connolly. I remember all of them because they had a positive impact on me. Now these kids, to be 18 and only have like a 5th grade, 4th, middle school level education, because you just don't have to go. That separates the family from the school. The family interaction with the school. There's no interaction with the schools and the family. There's more interaction with the police department and the families, and DYS departments and the family, and even revenue in the families than the schools and the families. It's just that it became a money. I believe, I'm not saying facts, I believe it became more about systematic, it became more about money, and it became more about control. That's what it is. Like the system, I want to say, like revenue. I think they take the powers, they take the power that you have in your family out of your hands. Like the mothers and the fathers, there's so much they can do with these kids. Your kid turn around and tell you, I'll call the police. Or I'll call
the kids.
The kids are saying this to the parents.
So there's a disconnect between the kids, the family, and the school and the community.
There's a disconnect. Now what they do is they say there's problems at home. They're all in your. Once they're in your home, they're in your home. Now your kid sees that, he's frustrated. He goes to school. The teachers are scared of the kids. The administration, the teachers are scared of the administration. The administration is scared of it just goes on, but the kids are scared of nobody. The kids are running everything. The kids are scared of nobody, and it's not about, and I don't want to say scared, but there should be a level of respect that's just not.
It's not
evident in the home. It's not evident in the school. When in 9th grade, what is that? 9th grade is your first year of high school. If you don't show up, your parents should be that should be known.
That's right.
You shouldn't be able to say to your girlfriend, write me a letter. She can write you a letter
and pass it on.
And your excuse without your parents never even know. If you're missing assignments, why aren't your parents notified? And there should be something done about that. Like, parents have a responsibility to interact with their kids. there's a whole big disconnect there, and that's where it starts. It starts in the home. Once they took away from the home, then that's when the system comes in. Now you're basically being a ward of the state. You're being raised by the state, and that's why a lot of these kids are I don't want to say messed up or lost, but that seems to be the appropriate word. And I hate to use that word because with a family, there shouldn't be a child lost.
But someone like you has hope in the future, and some of that comes from what you're doing with your kids, your generation.
Yes.
Now, this video is going to go out to a number of people. Can you just share any closing remarks about what it's like to take time here on Mother's Day, got family events going? We just basically met today. What do you think about this kind of meeting time and videotaping this kind of discussion?
I think these discussions are definitely warranted. They're needed because, like social media, things need to be brought to light, to the light. And these type of websites, these type of videos, this type of interaction is needed because it gives you a real view of what's going on. And it's just my opinion, but it's an opinion of somebody who's born and raised here, who's been through a lot, and who's trying to overcome that.
And you're probably not alone. I bet you know people that have the same feelings.
No, absolutely not alone. In light of, excuse me, in light of Chicago, in light of Baltimore, in light of LA, in light of situations that even happened here. A few months ago, there was a shooting on Humboldt Street, and an individual got out the car and shot a police officer. And that's the frustration. Yeah. And that's what they don't want. That's what nobody wants. I don't want my kid to be coming out of the corner store getting candy and witnessing somebody jumping out of the car because he's frustrated shooting at the police.
That's right.
Police gunning him down.
No one wants that.
Nobody wants that, but it's so frustrating. Yeah. And that's what it's coming to.
Yeah.
And that's what nobody wants.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that.
Yeah.
And
well, I think what I appreciate in this time together is you have covered a number of things. You didn't point fingers at one person or one system, but talked about that oneness that we all have to work together on.
That's what it is.
I think what you did in taking time today is helping folks that are listening to this video to understand your perspective, and your perspective is shared by other people as well.
I'm pretty sure.
I really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
For everything. So much. Let's give it just a couple of more minutes so like we're talking here. That was great, man. That was really good. Really appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to turn it off now.
Was it supposed to be this hot today?
Yeah.
We glorify God and we thank Him for this opportunity. Amen. Is this your first time visiting us? We don't mind you being quiet if you don't mind us being loud. Somehow we put it all together and God gets praise. Amen. Amen. Look at your neighbor and tell him welcome. Welcome to my row. Amen. Glad to see you. All right, let's go. 1, 2, 3. Come on, put your hands together. If you know who was standing here.
his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. And we come together first to thank God for all he's done, all he's doing, and all he's getting ready to do. But we've come to do more than just thank him for his stuff. We don't come to slip our hand beyond the veil and get something from him. No, we come to worship him because he's God all by himself. To get to that point where you say, God, you never did another thing for me, yet I'll worship you because you're God all by yourself. And you're worthy to be worshipped. So all over this temple right now, I invite you to lift up your hands and open your mouths and just begin to brag on God. Tell him how awesome he is, how wonderful he is, how holy he is, that he's God all by himself. There's nobody like him. Nobody like him. He's almighty God. He's gracious God. He's King of Kings, Lord of Lords. He's Jehovah Nissi, Jehovah Shammah, Jehovah Shammah. He's a God that always was, always is, and always shall be. Come on, worship us. We bless your name, God. We love you, God, just for loving us so much. You're Alpha, you're Omega, you're God. Your way, your truth, your life. You're the Prince of Peace. You're omnipotent and you are omniscient. You're Lily of the Valley, bright morning star. You're a wonderful counselor. You are close, you are healing, you are strength.